Little Caesars changed the game, bro.
They did.
Little Caesars changed. That's the most shot of shit I've ever seen.
Hey, Chewy, blood. They want you on the podcast, bro. Look, he Mexican, bro. You gotta put him on.
Am I interrupting your depression? I'm sorry.
This week's episode of The Voice Party is brought to you by Big Boy Raps. Get your car wrapped by some of the most experienced and skilled in the Bay. Big Boy Raps, where the big boys play.
Okay. Whenever you're ready.
All right. What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Voice Party podcast. Say podcast.
Podcast.
Damn it, you ruined it. All right. This is a Halloween special. What's up, Phil?
Oh,
How you doing?
I'm okay.
You all right?
I'm okay.
You excited about Halloween this year?
Excited about these Reese's you got here.
Motherfucker. What about you, Joaquin? You excited about Halloween, bro?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Don't sound like it.
Oh, I am.
Okay, what about you?
Hell excited.
Sara-E?
I have my outfit, my costume planned out and everything.
Beetlejuice?
No.
Oh, I just saying because of the stripes.
Today I'm Beetlejuice.
Okay. And we got a very special guest. We've had him before, and we talked about his book. But since that episode, we've kind of gotten to know each other a little bit more through memes.
Yeah.
And we've talked about a lot of stuff that I felt could have made a great episode, but it even makes an even better Halloween episode. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Fernando Gallegos. I'm an explorer, author. I love doing like photography and stuff like that, and I definitely am interested in like esoteric themes, I guess you could say.
Esoteric themes.
So
Fancy.
like Freemasonry, Rosicrucianism, secret societies, those type of things that we tend to not talk about openly so much, you know.
Would you consider the paranormal
Oh yeah.
that
Yeah.
esoteric?
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. But it all ties in. It all ties in.
Is that something you guys? Well, we were gonna talk. You have a plan of what we're.
Whatever you want.
No. I want to stick to the plan because this is like my favorite. Like the Halloween season, all this spooky shit comes out. I'm a big fan of all this, all these topics. We have someone walk away from this episode. That's what I love about this kind of shit. Like, you put on something scary and then half the room has to leave. I mean, I don't like scaring people.
But you like
it's the power to that shit.
Yes, there's a certain quality. You're gonna get something of high quality in regards to.
Same as when you make a room full of people laugh.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It seeing that is kind of not cool,
it's good when they're all laughing.
Impact.
Yes.
You're having an impact.
Yes. Just like watching a scary movie, it stays with you for a while.
It has to do with your upbringing too. Like if you're not around that stuff growing up, like if you experience stuff later on in the future, like with no context as to what just happened experience-wise, like it could really mess you up.
For example, the Ouija board.
So
Let's get right into it.
I don't have any stories about the Ouija board, but I have experience in with another esoteric group with diving into the summoning of entities, and that was one of the things that
they're not here right now, are they?
No. So like that was one of the things I was like kind of trained up by like these groups of how to like
summon.
These are experts. These are by all means experts. So like one time I drove down to Los Angeles to go partake in this training, and some of the stuff that we did was pretty. Wow, it's crazy to think about things existing beyond our normal comprehension, and to try to manifest them in some type of form in front of you. It's like
in front of you, like
yeah. I'm talking like demons, angels type of stuff.
Right.
Whoa.
What did you do in the train? Can you tell us?
A
little bit.
Can you tell us the name of the group? No, probably not.
I'll mention it. It's the Golden Dawn. So they have there's so many different versions of the group because the name's out there, so anybody could call themselves part of the Golden Dawn.
Are you still part of the group?
No. but like their teachings date back to like the 1800s. A lot of academics basically got a hold of like these ancient books and how to summon entities, and that's how they.
From what culture?
It's Western esotericism. So it's all like Kabbalah, like. So they say it dates back to like Egypt and those times, and but
Mesopotamian shit, right?
yeah. So there's a lot of the invocations and rituals actually do date back to like that.
Sumerians and
like
something
Greek
like that.
cultures, Roman cultures. It was
just
all
gonna name
mixed.
all the ancient cultures.
It was all mixed. It was all mixed. And so like one of the things that they did was they taught us step by step how to protect yourself, how to set up the boundaries, because that's the most important thing. And then
you said in front of you though.
yeah. So I mean, I
want to talk about the.
I don't know if I could go that deep into it, but yeah, like some of that was what I was basically taught, and like one of the tasks was they set us up into different groups of people. They just mentioned a name. Of this
Elvis. No,
well, yeah, like any type of entity that you're not familiar with, like you just know the name.
Yeah.
And based on the group's collective, I guess, consciousness, you're able to tap into this other side and actually figure out what the entity looks like and describe it. And each group independently came to the same exact creature, like exactly described it, and this, nobody knew the name, nobody had heard it before, and it's just it goes to tell you how
Pazuzu.
Like these entities do have some substance on another dimension that we're completely unaware of. And
you say creature?
Yeah. So yeah.
Entity.
Okay.
We can't understand.
Oh, got it.
We can't fathom it yet. That's the point.
Very Lovecraftian.
It's like the ancient gods or the mythology of these entities. Like they exist in some other dimension. Especially if you give them a lot of
power.
Power. Yeah.
By acknowledging them.
Exactly.
What I think is really cool is that you have to like collect it. Like it's a collective effort to figure out or like summon.
Yeah, like the thing where they say they get like 100 students in the classroom and they all made the light bulb. Something like that, right?
Exactly. So like you collectively, you could, if everybody believes in that one god or entity, enough people believing in it can manifest some type of reality.
And this happened, you said. This did?
Yeah, so this was one of the things that,
Oh, shit.
It's kind of interesting when you think about like religion.
Yeah,
right? Like if you just get enough people to worship.
And to take it even further, your own psyche can manifest itself into some physical representation. So a lot of the ancient writings talk about summoning like demons, for example. Mm-hmm. And to do this, you're basically putting yourself in a meditative.
In modern times, they call it Tinder.
No. The best way to describe it is it's like a primitive psycho-hypnosis of oneself. You're physically manifesting the negative side of your consciousness, like your brain, and by manifesting it into some physical form, you're then able to control it and turn it into something positive. So that's why a lot of people, when they summon like demons or whatever, they might control. By being able to control it, you could then control that part of your psyche. And like turn it around. Okay, I want positive things. I want to be rich. I want this. I want that.
So it's like you're opening a part of your psyche
exactly.
It's not that you're summoning something from the ground.
Yeah.
It's
so when you go to like hypnotherapists and stuff like that, like they put you in these meditative states, and you go back in time to like part of your past where you were abused or something negative.
Where it opened that up.
Yeah, and so you're able to address it in that fashion, right? But it's all internal. It's like an internal battle. But by manifesting it into some physical form or representation, you're then able to see it in like right in front of you and change it right then and there, rather than having to battle it out inside your mind.
You say this like if you've experienced it. Is it something that you've done?
practiced it.
You practice it.
Yeah.
That's
Is that why you're so calm all the time?
No, I'm definitely. I'm always like the opposite of calm.
Really?
I'm always anxious. Like,
Oh, yeah,
I have
yeah.
a lot of anxiety. Yeah.
Dealing with all those spirits, it'd be anxious too.
Does that stuff have an effect on you now? Doing that back then?
No. It's all about setting boundaries.
God.
If you don't set the proper boundaries, especially when you go mess with like the Ouija board and stuff like that, like there's no boundaries.
You've never done that?
No.
I thought you did a version of that.
There is a different version of that, but like
How do you set a boundary with a Ouija board? And what are they sort of like? Okay, like no cursing.
You say be nice.
it usually involves
No making one of my friends mysteriously disappear. We don't want to go to sleep and then wake up and find out that Bill is missing. Like we're all playing the Ouija board and Bill's gone. We don't know where he is.
No, nothing. No. It's a matter of like setting a ritualistic space and purifying that space. In many instances, it's a circle. It's a representation of a circle. In some practices, like the Solomonic rituals, you have to set like the names of God all around it.
Oh, really?
So that way you set the boundary, and then you have a triangle set off to the side, and in the mirror, and in the middle is a mirror, a black mirror, and that's usually where they manifest from.
Oh shit!
Yeah. And so
like manifest in, like you see the face in there.
You see the face, or in some instances they say that that's where it comes from. But yeah. And
you done that before?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Wow.
That's something I never ever talk about openly ever. But yeah, that's one of the.
What can you share about that experience? Was it more than once? Oh, you can't. That's cool. That's cool. No. But that I didn't know that was the thing.
Yeah. So that's an actual tradition.
But you did this like to seek knowledge first, like something that you're curious about, or something just internal that you wanted.
I was so curious about this when I first heard about it. I studied this for many years before even attempting it, and I had to make sure I had all the proper tools and everything set in place before I even attempted it. But yeah, I did.
Because I'm curious, but I don't think I would ever act on it.
It's like, again, it's part of. You have to understand it in terms of like primitive psychology. Like you're trying to, because most people underestimate the power of the imagination. Your imagination is incredibly powerful.
For sure.
And you completely you don't understand how far it's going to go. Even when it comes to like things like healing. And
having an anxiety attack will let you know how incredibly strong your powerful your mind is.
Yeah. So things like healing as well, like that was something that I was always really obsessed about. Even as a young age, like I was around a lot of the curanderismo type of practices, and a lot of experiences during my childhood led me into like trying to study this stuff, trying to learn as much as I could. I really wanted to go into healing,
For sure.
Like I never wanted to tell people that that's what I did, but I just wanted to do it, like have that in the back of my brain.
Right.
And an incident happened where, like I could just step in.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to ask you this, but like, did you ever practice? What are they called? Like brujeria, like the. What's it called? Well, curses, I guess you would call them, but
no. It was.
That's something that with those groups, sometimes do, right?
I mean,
without saying specifics.
If you're from the outside looking in, it would seem like it's kind of like brujeria or something to that effect. But no, it's nothing negative. It's nothing. It's very powerful and positive based. It's nothing about like, oh, I'm gonna put a hex on it, like, because
there you go, hex.
I keep hearing that from like different people, like, oh, the Wiccans practice, like, yeah, like they might do that kind of stuff, but what I was always interested in was this other side, this ancient lineages, talking about healing and using basically the power of the mind.
But are not curses also ancient, though?
Yes, yeah, but I don't believe in them. I honestly don't believe in any type of malicious type of force. And
is that to like not give it power?
Exactly. Right. As soon as you have any doubt that somebody put like a curse on you or like a hex, like
you give it power.
Exactly. Any little doubt will empower it. And I believe that those things are just like, it's just very like superstitious.
Because you could tell someone, oh, I put a curse on you, and then the moment something bad happens, they're like, oh, that's the
As
curse.
soon as you open up that door, it leaves you vulnerable. Like even any type of just don't think about it. Just don't think about it. It
On that same note, I saw on your page that I actually read about him a little bit. The Eliphas Levi.
Eliphas Levi. Yeah.
You have that book?
Yeah, I have.
Can you explain to the listeners what that is? That was interesting that I saw that on your, because I actually was watching this documentary that connected to Eliphas.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What was the
Sons of Sam.
It talked about it?
It talked about it. There was a club that they all met up or something like that, and it was called Eliphas, and it was like the satanic group.
What the?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
You could explain who Eliphas was, and I thought that was like crazy that you have that book.
Yeah, so Eliphas Levi wrote several books, one of which was Transcendental Magic, and in that book was one of the first representations of the Baphomet, which is the goat head with
the boobs.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
You don't know?
pointing up and down, and so a lot of people use that. The Church of Satan was one of the main groups that adopted that icon for their faith.
Their faith, yeah. What is that supposed to represent?
So,
because it wasn't created by the Church of Satan, right?
No. It supposedly dates back. The way he wrote it, it dates back to the Templars.
I'll show it to you.
As in the Knights Templar?
That's correct.
As in the Christian Knights Templar. Oh,
Christian. So when they went to the Middle East, they brought back with them a lot of this sacred knowledge from what was passed down from the Arabs, right? And so
that's the Baphomet.
Those faiths.
And so during the Inquisition, as many Knight Templars were being tortured, a few mentioned worshiping that entity, and it's symbolic in nature. So as above, so below. That comes from Mithraism. Mithraism dates back to like Roman times, and so it's a mix of different cultures. The caduceus, I think, is in the middle, and that represents going down to reveal the secrets that's cloaked underneath. It's just a representation of the different mysteries, what they consider.
So it's not evil.
No.
The original, though. I mean.
No.
Yeah. What does a goat head represent, though? Birria?
they called it the goat of Mendez, is what they called it.
Mendez.
Yeah.
And the wings?
I can't remember exactly.
Okay. But you have that guy's one of the original prints.
Of the book. Yeah, that was translated into English. Yeah.
He was known for being what, a warlock?
He was a priest. Yeah, he was an ex-priest, and he started digging into these mysteries, and he kind of left the church after that.
Wow.
Did he leave or was he kicked out?
I don't know. I think he.
Can you resign?
I don't know.
You can.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
But yeah, like a lot of his books basically were the foundation of what was later to be known as Western esotericism, and so the Golden Dawn was one of the main groups that.
But to like modern whatever people, he's considered like an evil guy. And that's why I wanted to ask.
I don't know.
Okay.
I can't talk.
You can't talk. Okay.
I don't, because I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
Chooses not to believe that.
I don't know. There was some. I think there was a few mentions of him doing some shady stuff on the side.
Really? Yeah. Just like, what's that other guy's name? The German guy. You know what I'm talking about? Crowley.
Oh, Crowley. Oh. He was in Germany. He was
Alistair.
What was he? Hungarian?
English.
Way off.
He was, I think he was a professor at Cambridge or Oxford
yeah. But he wrote about rituals where like sacrificing babies. So it sounded like that. It sounded like that.
He was very demented, and it was very disturbing. A lot of the things that he practiced. One of the ritual. I'm not going to go into it. But
no, please.
So
please do.
It's our Halloween episode. Go into it.
So, Crowley, I'm definitely no expert in Crowley, but some of the rituals are pretty outlandish by any means. One of the main rituals was the Moonchild ritual, in which you try to summon Satan himself into a child that's being born.
Hereditary.
And so... So to take it so that was one of the, and he did a lot of disgusting rituals, like absolutely disgusting. Like he believed in being like really open and like this,
Rosemary's Baby.
You have to give me more specifics. I'm sorry, I don't know any of this. You guys are just saying, and I'm like, what is this?
There's stuff we don't want to.
Yeah, it's pretty
mention that starts with the R, right?
Okay.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Okay.
And a lot of
Intense rituals.
doing drugs, and he went off the rails.
Okay.
But so back to the Moonchild ritual. That was one of the main rituals that he was known for. To try
Moonchild. So try to summon
Satan
into
as a baby, like
Trying to create the Antichrist.
and then another individual who was really into his rituals was I don't know if I can say that probably, but
no one listens to this podcast,
Okay.
bro. Just say.
I mean, are you afraid of getting sued? Aren't
no. Well, it's the Church of Scientology. I mean, L. Ron Hubbard. Was one of the closest followers to
Crowley?
I didn't know
Makes sense.
that L.
And
Ron
so-
Hubbard was following Aleister
So
Crowley.
his L. Ron Hubbard's son was one of the ones that came forward and basically saying how his father was trying to conduct this ritual and how he had
Tom Cruise, baby.
and how he had previously, I guess, aborted another baby with like a coat hand. It was very disturbing stuff. And, yeah, so L. Ron Hubbard's son was one of the ones that came out and talked openly.
This is beyond just fucking ghost stories, man.
Well, what's interesting is like L. Ron Hubbard, the whole Scientology thing is all like aliens, and you just don't expect it to be
spaceship's
all
coming
like,
or some
right.
shit, yeah.
You don't expect it to be like we're trying to raise the spawn of Satan. What? Like okay, different direction
I guess it was just might have been just a hobby for him. I don't know.
on the side, right? When he's not running his science fiction cult, he's over here trying to bring Satan into the world with the real spiritualists.
That
I hear it.
Moonchild thing wasn't his creation, though, right? That goes back.
I'm pretty sure it does.
'Cause I think I don't know if I remember hearing something about that in like Babylonian times.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
This is crazy.
Yeah.
This idea of trying to
It's like child's
bring
play,
in-
bro. Charles Lee Ray.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. you sound like you're holding back a lot, and I love it, but I also like if you were to say some of this shit, probably be a little intense, huh?
Yeah, I don't.
No, and that's fine.
There's just a lot. Like I just
Listen, what do we say it in third person? Your friend.
I'm trying to stick to PG-13 here.
No, hell no. This is a X-rated
R-rated,
fucking.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
No, but yeah, like that stuff. That some of the stuff that I read about with Crowley, like yeah, that's demented shit.
It's disturbing. Yeah.
Disturbing. Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't for him. Like a lot of he helped translate a lot of the works, a lot of these ancient books into.
They did work a lot to do that, but would you say that's like that drove him crazy? Because it seems like that's what happens to a lot of these dudes that fuck around with heavy shit.
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it. Some people, again, if you don't set the proper perimeters and you're susceptible to a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I was
just-
gonna say like it could be like his psyche was just kind of had a lot of negative.
Yeah.
And as soon as you incorporate any type of drug abuse, that's when things turn really bad. And that's been the case for a lot of these
The
groups.
experiment with like different. Look at Manson.
We're gonna look at mushrooms today.
Because once you do
and read the ancient scriptures of foregone. Yeah, no good can come of
Amen.
this.
exactly
Those are awesome.
once you do drugs, like you are not in control at that point.
And if you're trying to summon shit to take over control.
Oh, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Your psyche becomes vulnerable to anything.
Yeah.
Anything at that point.
And the drugs are like in their mind, right? Like they're like trying to enhance and open up their mind more so they could, right, like be better. But what they don't realize is they're making themselves very vulnerable.
Exactly.
Okay.
Have you? What's how many rituals would you say you've been involved with without getting to specifics?
Unless you want to.
Unless you want to.
I
Right.
have no number. Like it's a lot.
Wow.
Because again, I mean, since I was a little kid, like I experienced a lot of trippy stuff, and
Like-
we could go into that.
Yeah.
But like a lot of paranormal stuff, a lot of a few UFO things,
Oh yeah, you mentioned that.
and that's what got me really into studying this.
The
stuff.
UFO stuff.
Yeah. Well, all these experiences. All these experiences.
Would you say they're one and the same?
No.
No. Like
I was gonna ask that earlier. I was gonna ask like, would you guys like say that like aliens and like that whole concept is kind of just like a different entity of like supernatural, different planes?
I couldn't tell you.
But-
well, there's a lot of
I don't
theories
think
right now
so.
going on that like UFOs aren't. I mean, they're not had nothing to do with aliens. There's theories going around that they're just like technology that's super advanced.
I full-heartedly believe that they're external.
You do?
to this Earth, and yeah.
What do you think? What do you think that is? What do you think it like? In your theory, or first, let's start with your experience of the UFO.
Okay, so there's several times.
Really?
Yeah, the first one was in first grade. I went out to the playground. It was a really foggy day in San Jose. All the kids were just staring off into the distance, and there was like these strange lights in the sky, and it was bizarre. And so that was something that really just stuck to me. It's like all these kids just staring off at this thing. And a few years later, I want to say 2-3 years later, we were camping up near the Sierra foothills in the Sierra Nevada, and we wanted to go to a lake, and we had an inflatable raft, so we had to go to the nearest gas station to fill it up with air and come back and go on the lake, right? And on our way there, as we were turning a bend, my father was driving, I was in the passenger, and my brother was in the back, staring off into the other direction. As we were coming around a little bend, there was a shiny object. The best way to describe it was like a disc. It was almost like a metallic, like a mirror.
Yeah.
It was so shiny. It was like a mirror, and it just shot up about 10-20 feet up in the air. All this debris and stuff just like flew up, and as soon as it started settling down, it just went like something out of warp speed, like that Star Trek thing. And so that kind of was trippy. And then my dad's like yelling at me, like, did you see that? Did you see that? And of course I saw it. My brother didn't. The weird thing, that wasn't even the weird part. The weird part was when we got back to the campsite, my mother was like frantic. She was waiting for us. She was like, what took you guys so long? What took you guys so long? I'm like, what are you talking about? It took no more than an hour to drive up to the nearest town and back. We had to fill it up with air. We put gas in the car. And she's like, no, you guys have been gone for over 3 hours now. And we're like, what the fuck?
Oh, shit.
And so where that time went, I have no idea. By the time that we got back, we started noticing, okay, the sun's already going down. We don't even have time to go to the lake. So where the hell did that time go?
Oh, time went by like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the time went missing. And that was one of the experiences that, like, I realized, okay, so there's something more to what we perceive in our day-to-day.
For sure.
Yeah.
So every time I'd bring it up to other, like, kids my age, they'd just laugh or whatever. So I kind of realized, okay, well, I got to take a step back and not talk so openly about that kind of stuff.
My best friend had a very similar experience, like, with time, kind of. She was at a bar and she lived 10 minutes away from the bar, so she would walk to the bar. At the end, she was like, I'm gonna walk home. Her phone, she texted her boyfriend that she was on her way home, and then she wakes up in like a random part of the town, like the other side of town, and she's like, I don't know how I got here, because she was drunk, right? So she doesn't know if she just like blacked out. But when she called her boyfriend, it was only like 30 minutes after she had texted him, but she was like 2 hours away.
Oh shit.
So he had to drive 2 hours to go find her.
Wow.
And like there's no explanation as to like what happened. She just remembers seeing lights on someone's lawn and then waking up in a different like neighborhood.
Wow.
Damn.
Not waking up, but like just coming to, like senses.
And that's a common thing whenever like UFO sightings or anything, where
abductions.
Like, or they're like. Do you remember watching that movie, The Mothman? You seen that one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where he travels hella far. It only felt like a few hours.
Yep.
I've never seen a UFO or anything like that, but this was the weirdest thing that ever happened. You know Tilden Park? You've been to Tilden Park here in what is it, Berkeley?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was like, man, probably 10 years ago. We were like fresh out of high school. We took 2 cars, our buddies. We drove to the top of the hill, and there was already some guys there, and I dropped off my friends like towards where we're gonna be hanging out. We're gonna be smoking and drinking, obviously, And then I went to go park my car, and I was walking back to where they were always dark. I was using like my Nokia phone to like light up my. So I met up with them, and like 4 out of the 8 were freaked out because they said they were walking like to meet up with the other group, and they saw something low. They didn't notice it, But then when they got close to it, that thing moved, and then they like zigzagged and moved, and they were telling this story like with so much conviction. We thought they were just fucking with us, you know. But they were like so scared that they didn't even want to smoke. Like, you know, that's, and everybody put in on it. So it was like they were freaked out. They said it's just like it was something like flying, and it flew, like you said, hella fast, and they couldn't explain it, and they were like,
wow.
yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but you know, their description of it was just yeah,
Convincing.
Yeah.
Well, my
Yeah.
friend too, to this day, she doesn't
know what happened.
She's so scared to like drink alone. Like she won't like.
Jeez.
She's like, I'm not gonna get blacked out. Like I'm not gonna be
Yeah,
alone.
2 hours away. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That happens. That's been described with the missing 411. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yeah.
You're familiar with that?
Yeah.
You
Oh,
guys
yeah.
know what that is?
No.
You've talked
Oh yeah,
about this?
we've talked about that with Mr. Sinister.
Yeah. Well, basically, you know what it is. Can you describe it to our listeners?
So it started with a police officer from San Jose, California.
San Jose?
Yeah, he
Oh,
was
shit,
he was the one that wrote the book.
Oh,
and he
David Paludis or something like
I
that?
can't remember.
Yeah. So Paludis is that's his last name. Yeah.
I can't remember. But yeah, so he realized that there hasn't been any documentation regarding all the missing people at all the national parks across the U.S.
Which is a lot of people.
There's a lot of people, and some of the cases when they disappear, it's not like their clothes are like scattered, like, you know, they think maybe
Like a bear attack or something.
Yeah, bear attack or anything to suggest maybe they're
Like survival or something.
Like, you know, when you get dehydrated and you start going crazy, you start ripping off your clothes or whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of the clothes, it's like it's
Neatly folded.
neatly folded, or it's like collapsed on top of each other, as if they were just like to vanish.
Yeah.
And so he was the first one to document all these missing cases, because there was no national registry of all these cases where people went missing.
There's a lot.
Did you guys hear about the stairs that pop up in like forests that you're like not supposed to? I recently like learned about this. My friend.
That's kind of connected with the missing 411, where national forest and just stairwells appear out of nowhere.
Oh wow.
You ever heard of that?
No.
And like I guess like park rangers are trained to never go up the stairs,
never touch them or anything,
or talk about them or anything. Yeah, exactly.
Block off. I saw something where they block off the trail that leads to some stairwells. Yeah, because there's been a lot of missing people in the whole missing 411.
Don't go up the stairs.
And there's stories of people reappearing.
Yep.
After their clothes were found.
What?
Yeah.
What do they say? Sorry, I don't.
There's a lot of different testimonies. Do you know about any of them?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I just know about the ones that went missing and they found their remains later. Like, it'll be like on the opposite side of the mountain peak, like
right.
Like it was like one of them.
No tracks.
No tracks. And yeah, it was like one of the kids that went missing. Like there's only one way down to where he had to go, and he just disappeared. And some years later, they found him on his remains on a mountain peak on the other side of the valley. It's like, how the hell?
There was one where a guy was with his daughter, and she was running down the hill, and he just turned like literally a millisecond, and then turned back. She was gone.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That tends to be the most common thing that I've heard, where the parent just turns back.
Or a guy's walking with a friend, and he's talking, and then he just doesn't hear the friend anymore. Turns around, and there's no one around, and then the friend's gone.
Yeah. And there's just one trail, and that's what makes it so freaky, is that there's one trail. There's nowhere like for them to run off.
Right.
Because it's such an open valley, or it tends to be a valley.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Right. Where there's no explanation, like they didn't fall off a cliff, or there's no fucking, you know.
Unless it's like a.
Didn't get jumped by wolves.
Yeah. So if you're listening, enjoy your visit to
our great national parks.
I was like, I'm never going.
And I wonder if it happens in other national parks around the world, like Zimbabwe.
I'm pretty sure it does.
I'm pretty sure it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to. Well, yeah, because like there's like cases like in Japan too, right? There's like the forest in Japan where people like the suicide. Yeah, like there has to be all around the world.
Hopefully, no.
Not just us.
And not just the United States.
Do you go to national parks often?
Yeah, I try to.
Does any of this ever cross your mind when you're doing something
He's
like that?
protected.
Oh yeah, that's what you did. Those rituals.
I don't know if the aliens are, you know, if the rituals work on them.
Do you know about that?
About the what?
Like, does
Any
your
rituals work on?
like,
Because there's people that supposedly do rituals to summon UFO sightings.
Yes, I've seen that.
What do you think about that? What's your thoughts on that? Because
I am skeptical, but at the same time, it could happen. It could happen. I do believe that they're somehow in touch with.
You think so?
Yeah.
It's possible that some of those rituals are just ancient communication devices to reach out to folks on other planets.
I'm actually looking at
folks on other planets are more in tune with the spiritual realm than Earthlings are.
There you go.
Never know.
There you go.
I'm looking at some of the notes you wrote for today, and there's something that I actually want to talk to you about that you mentioned is shadow people.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
You have experiences with that?
Yeah. So growing up, I would see that a lot.
No way.
And it was always the same entity. It was always with like a fedora type of hat.
Dude.
And so
My sister had that too.
I never.
And I had one experience with that too.
I never talked openly about it, but I used to listen to a lot to Coast to Coast.
Art Bell.
Art Bell, yeah.
One of the best.
And
That's the reason I started this show.
dude, oh my god, dude, he was one of my heroes, man.
Yeah.
Like, so I was listening to one of his shows, and they mentioned the shadow people, and I was like, what? Somebody saw the exact same thing that I had seen over the course of years, like the fedora hat
And the trench coat.
Sometimes from the corner of my eye. But there was one or two instances where it was directly in front of me.
So someone dressed like the Undertaker. You know the Undertaker? Someone like that's what I describe it to people. You know that the fedora and the trench coat. My sister used to see that figure walking at the top of the stairs in our old house.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of speculation, too, as to what they might be.
What do you think it is?
So a lot of people believe they're, like, interdimensional beings and stuff like that. I honestly do not know.
You guys ever watch like Demon Slayer?
Man, I've seen the anime.
Yes.
Yes, yes, I have.
I can't say the guy's name. He's like, he has a really interesting name, but the character, he's like the fedora. He's the one that turns other people into demons. He like walks around in the shadows.
He's like he's the leader of them all, right?
He's like the main demon. Yeah.
And he's like hiding with like a wife and child, right?
Right. Yeah.
You know, undercover. You wouldn't even guess. There's a whole society of demon hunters. It's like what they've been doing for generations.
I see. That's what he is, right?
No.
I'm just kidding.
No.
Wait, so you would see that as a kid?
Yeah.
For like.
Well, but my friend, the one that the UFO friend,
Yeah.
she had a boyfriend. They actually broke up already, but he was like super. His whole family was like, there is a man that like haunts them, and it's like they called him the Man in Black.
Interesting.
And like they would always see him, and whenever anything bad happened, like he was always there. Like their grandma passed away, Man in Black was there, and like they were like, he follows us everywhere.
Like a Man in Black or like a dark shadow?
Like a dark shadow man.
Interesting.
And they would call him the Man in Black. And my friend's boy, I was like, dude, he's schizophrenic, because he would like go crazy on her and like make her throw away like things like burn that. It has bad vibes, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, bro, you need to leave him. He's schizophrenic.
That leads me to another point, like back to Crowley, when you get a certain point in your psyche where you're not in control, like even if it is mental illness, like things can manifest that way,
and that can lead to you hurting yourself or others,
Others,
exactly, or your family in this case.
Kind of reminds me of Renfield from Bram Stoker's Dracula. His character was in a mental asylum, and he was the only one that was like, he's coming. The Dark Lord is. And they didn't listen to him.
Why do you think everyone sees it in a fedora though? Like, why is he so stylish?
I don't know. They've been described differently.
Yeah.
That's been the most widely described entities with the fedora.
I told you I used to work doing home alarms for the most part. You know, going to people's houses, and this is weird, man. But like in San Francisco, in the same street, two different customers told me the exact same story of a tall figure with not a fedora, a top hat, and
Maybe they just didn't know the word fedora. Just kidding.
No, they described it as like a top hat with a purple cloak, and would always stand and have a judging face. It sounds like a little bastard.
So the shadow people look more like shadows. Like you can see it. They're very transparent. When it comes to other figures, like actual ghosts.
And you saw this when you were awake or asleep?
Awake. 100% awake.
Wow.
When you're talking about ghosts, the best way to describe the ghosts of what I've seen, especially a lot of footage, now that there's cameras everywhere, they're capturing a lot of, like, there's a good show on Discovery that just covers all these ghosts and stuff. But the best way to describe a ghost, you can't see through. It's almost like those green suits, but imagine a completely black suit. Like you can't even see, it doesn't reflect light. It does cast shadows, and that's the best way to describe ghosts from like every encounter I've seen on like people filming and stuff. That's
Like
the
green
best way-
screen, someone wearing it. Yeah.
So somebody wearing a jet black, like
Morph
body
suit.
body
It
suit.
Morph suit.
absorbs light, but it doesn't.
Exactly. And it even casts shadow. It casts shadow. Like
It casts a shadow.
Yeah.
I've seen that on a camera. I saw cameras. I had a customer who was like, I keep getting these cameras work on motion. Every time motion, that'll trigger the recordings. I went to this guy's house in Pittsburgh. He had one of those. It's like a hallway leading to the front door, you know, and we would see like a shadow, and it cast a shadow walking back and forth in that hallway, and it was so weird. I was like, I think this camera's working, my guy. And it was creepy, man. But like, you know, I've had my own. Well, it was more like a sleep paralysis thing,
yes.
where I was being held down by a bunch of shadows. And I've also had one where the shadow thing talked to me, which I've shared before here on the podcast. And it's weird that one that actually talked had a fedora.
Interesting.
I've never
Interesting.
seen anything, but
Yeah.
I've heard and felt things. So I had a sleep paralysis thing too, and I can't sleep with like light, so I'm like really sensitive to light. So I had my pillow over my face, and then at some point I woke up and I couldn't like move, and I felt something in the room. Like I couldn't see it, right, but I just felt it, and I was like trying to scream, crying, calling for my brother. It didn't happen. And at some point I woke up in the morning and I like yelled at him. I was like, "You didn't come." And he's like, "I didn't know that you were like what was happening."
Dying.
Yeah.
But then also I slept over at a friend's house, and I don't know if it was like the placebo effect, because she was like, "Oh, careful, there's this guy that like walks around in the middle of the night."
Great.
And I was like, "What?" And that makes sense. Like as soon as you believe something, right? Like
Yeah, it was like inserted into your psyche already.
exactly.
That's
So,
true.
like, when I went to bed, like I heard the footsteps, and I was like, "I'm not gonna open my eyes. I'm not gonna," because I was like so terrified, and I just kept hearing like the footsteps of it, like the dude walking around, and I was like in tears, like my eyes shut, and I was so mad at her. I was like, "Why would you tell me this? Why would you let me sleep over? How are you okay with this? How do you live here?" Like,
Well, my response would have been like, I'm still alive, and so are you.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's nothing he can do.
but like,
It's just a little annoying.
It's still fucking like it has. It does a lot of. For example, I used to work at a Riley Auto Parts. I was managing it for a while, the one on 23rd in Richmond, if you're familiar. And it was interesting because like my boss, who was my homie since high school, was a manager there, and he told me that one time he was working real late and he saw a woman walking around, and he was the last person there. There's no way in hell like, you know, anyone could just go in there. I thought he was bullshitting because I was gonna have to do the closing shift that week because like he's trying to scare me. I was working late and I had a coworker with me, and I heard a woman whisper something, like in Spanish. I couldn't hear it, but, and then it just kind of like, you know, what the fuck was that, you know? I didn't think much of it, but it kind of did like startle me a little bit, but I just kept working. And that same night when we were leaving, locking up, we were towards the front of the store, and there's like a wall about the size of this wall right here behind us. And on the other side of the wall is where we kept all the mufflers and all the expensive catalytic converters, you know. As we were locking up, turning off the lights, we hear like everything on that wall fell.
Wow.
And we were like, "Oh shit, it was loud." We both heard it. We ran over there, turned on all the lights. Everything's up. Nothing fell.
oh shit.
Just nothing. And then I started thinking, this motherfucker told me that he's something, you know. And then I just turned off the lights, put the code to the alarm, and I dipped.
I've had that happen several times.
Really?
Where I wake up and I hear like crashing of all this stuff. Like it sounded exactly like all the dishes in the kitchen just crashing.
Yeah.
Down. Ran up, nothing. Same thing with, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the death knock.
I was gonna bring that up because you wrote it on the notes.
So yeah, the death knock is usually when somebody passes away, you'll hear 3 distinct knocks from the front door. It's always the front door. It's never to your bedroom. It's always in the front door, and that's happened several times to me. Most recently, about 2 to 3 years ago.
What is
I got
that supposed to be?
chills.
It happens. In
Just like a regular knock?
Yeah.
That happened to me as a kid when I was like 12. My parents left me home alone. Someone knocked at the front door, and I walked over to open it, and there was no one there. But before I opened it, when I unlocked it, I opened it and someone closed it.
Oh shoot!
And then I was like, I thought it was my sister and
Just messing with you.
or my brother, and they're like, "Hey, bitch!" I said something like that. and I opened it, and then there was no one there, and I had a long driveway, so I walked down to the driveway. My neighbors were cooking like in the front lawn, and I went over. Hey, did you see someone? Like, nah, man, you got a ghost. That's the first thing he said, because they told me that the house burnt down, and we've already had a couple of experiences there. In fact, in that same house, it was 4th of July. My sister drove us, the kids, to the park, and my parents drove together to Point Richmond to see the fireworks. We were still there, and my parents got back early, and when they were coming home, they saw the lights were on, and they heard a bunch of people in the kitchen, like, you know, music playing. They're like, oh, damn, they're back, and they're loud. They hear laughing. They open the door, all this noise goes away, and the house is dark.
Wow.
Yeah. We also had 2 lines in that house, and this happened twice.
Two
where
phone lines?
2 phone lines, one in the upstairs, my sister, where she worked, because you know back in the days with internet.
Yeah.
And then the house line and the upstairs line would call the downstairs line sometimes. And one time all we heard was like breathing, and there was no one up there.
God. Wow.
And I slept in that upstairs bedroom, and twice someone knocked on my window upstairs.
Wow.
while I was in bed awake. Yeah.
The best way to describe like stuff like that, I think it's like
Residual?
It's a residual. What we in some esoteric circles they refer to it as the shell. So when you pass on, like your spirit is always gonna pass on. But depending on how you lived your life, I don't know if you ever had like conversations with people where after you talk with them that you feel drained.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my god, like what, like
This last guy we had on.
like you just feel absolutely drained. Like you feel like, oh my god, like I feel weak. Like,
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of the shell. It's like this intuitive part, almost like this primitive part of the being that just needs to absorb. It needs your validation. It needs your energy and to thrive.
Like what they call vampires.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so some
vampires.
people who are really intense in life, who are really like have anger issues or depression, like who's that shell becomes intense. It needs to feed off of other people in order to feel better, and that individual is always going to be feeling a certain way: anger, hate, anger, depression, etc.
But it needs to feed.
It needs, and so when they pass away, that shell is what remains, that residual shell. And so when it starts making noises, when it starts trying to get your attention.
It's trying to get your attention.
Exactly, to feed itself so that
you can open up your neck so you can take a bite.
No.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, metaphorically.
But yeah, like it needs your energy. So when
your attention.
So when a lot of people that I've heard this from a lot of people that go ghost hunting and stuff like that, they feel drained sometimes when they encounter something. Like, let's say the door's closing. I've seen instances where they're like communicating with it, and they're telling, like, even with the Ouija board, when it tells you half truths, it's trying to get your attention. It's trying to maintain its shell
connection.
Yeah, because it needs other people's energy to.
I felt
how much
before.
of itself. I wonder how much it remembers from its life.
I don't think any, to be honest.
It's just the energy that it leaves behind.
Yeah, it's just
which is like non. Because
I mean, it's got. If the Ouija board is communicating with you, it's thinking on some level, right?
That's what I don't know.
Yes or no? Yes, that's conceptual.
Well, it could be, but
what I've seen from the Ouija board, it will tell you half truths to try to like almost manipulate you to like keep going.
Yeah.
So and it might not always know the correct answer. Like I've seen it where it's like it might be telling you all lies, for example, and it's just to maintain your
keep you there,
your attention,
and keep you playing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Are you familiar? This is not off topic, but are you familiar with the Mars Volta, the band?
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna go see them next month, but they have a whole album that they don't really. They've said in interviews they don't like playing songs from that album because the guitarist bought a Ouija board from Jerusalem, like old Ouija board. They used to play it together, and they started writing down everything they got from there. They turned all those words into the album Goliath.
Artists, man.
which supposedly there's a lot of bad stuff that happened in the process of that album.
Oh, I would imagine.
And they talked about it in interviews where they actually had to do rituals to help undo a lot of the stuff that they did with that making of that album. So
Again, boundaries. Boundaries.
all the words they got from that ancient Ouija board, they wrote it into an album.
Oh.
I have a question. Is like the
I'm
best
gonna see them next month.
is like the best way to like deal with ghosts or these entities is to ignore them?
Yes.
Okay, like
Yeah.
that's just like
Like a screaming toddler.
my grandma would tell me like all these experiences she had, and like to the point where like they were slapping her. Like,
Wow.
So my grandpa built a house in the middle of Laredo, and what they later found out was that some people that were traveling through on wagon were murdered there, and they buried their gold. And so the ghosts would always tell my aunt to. They only wanted my aunt to dig for the gold, that she would get the gold, and on the
So they do remember.
on the condition that they be reburied. So I don't know. Maybe to some degree there might be some type of consciousness left.
My name was Bill, and I have several gold under. Yeah,
And
that makes sense.
but yeah, like and they would, and then
I saw that video you sent me of your mom telling that story.
yeah, so and then the ghost would pull down my grandma's sheet and
Yeah.
just slap her to go to church, like go
Wow.
to church to pray for us. Like that's what she believed.
And that's where's the story in my parents' village? The same kind of concept where there was this old house, and it got torn down, but the family members were buried in that same. And this is a story. I remember when my mom told me the story as a kid. It freaked me out because after the last lady of the family died, people would walk by that neighborhood and they'd see that woman. Even though she was already dead, they would see her in her like white dress and her hair looked the same. The only thing that was different about her was she wasn't actually like physically stepping on the floor. She was a few inches off the floor.
That's funny you say that.
Yeah.
My grandpa described the same thing one time.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go finish.
And what it was is there was money buried there.
Yeah, that's.
And one of the family members that tried to go or whatever, but decided not to, supposedly that she told her, you got to get this money out, blah, 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 and no one else can get it, just you. But she didn't do it. And every once in a couple of nights, that woman that was given permission to get the money, she would be pulled from her legs, pulled out of the house.
Wow.
Like dragged towards and where like a couple of times people try to stop her and grab her, but they would like something super strong was pulling her.
Wow.
yeah, like how do you ignore that?
Yeah. I've never talked about this personally, but I had an experience with someone in my life that was going through something that was described as demonic, where like the Catholic Church got involved with at one point. I think I mentioned that to you once.
Yeah.
And I had an experience once where I wasn't asleep all the way, and I felt a cold hand grab my ankle and pulled me out of bed.
Wow.
Pretty hard. I hit my head because I was all the way on the floor.
But how did you react?
I jerked off and went to bed. I'm just kidding. No, I think I just like listened to
gave him a
music,
show, huh,
and I don't think I slept that night. Like, and then I heard scratches on straight up like this on the walls for a couple of times.
Trying to get your attention for something.
And it's funny you mentioned the death knocks. We didn't hear that much that time, but we would have stuff where it sounded like the doors were slamming in the hallway, but all the doors were open.
I've heard that before.
You've heard that before?
Yep. But the death knock is usually when it's associated with somebody passing away.
Okay.
So that's
not the same.
So yeah, like when I heard the death knock, it was loud. It woke me up. Like it woke me up. I can't.
Wow.
I don't know how loud that has to be.
Yeah, that's
because
loud.
I'm a pretty heavy sleeper.
Heavy sleeper.
But I ran out like in my fucking chonies, right? I fucking opened the door, and there's nobody there. And I found out that morning that my friend passed away. One of my friends from high school.
Wow.
And so that's happened a few times before too. When I hear that knock, I already know like, oh shit, somebody's gonna.
Some of our family described that with the owl coming to
La Chusa?
La Lechuza.
Yeah.
They comes or if you dream of your teeth falling out, that means someone's gonna die. And that's kind of we've had family members say that like I dreamt my teeth, and the Theo died like the next day or some shit like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Or the owl coming to, what's it called? The noise, the make.
The what?
What was that? What was that? Oh, that's
It's a ghost.
no. And another thing that happened during this experience that when I was having this, our pets started dying. We had rabbits.
Interesting.
And they started dying out of nowhere.
I don't know.
It's a long story, but that's yeah.
Again, it comes down to how you react in that
Right.
moment.
Yeah.
Like with my grandma, she was literally like physically attacked.
Yeah.
She didn't care. She just told it off. Like
Yeah.
she went back to bed. She didn't give.
Right.
She was that hardy.
That's intense.
And so I would assume that the experiences after that point would die down. It's just how much attention you're giving. Maybe it's trying to tell you something at that, like you never know. You never.
Yeah.
Just take your chocolate and be like, hey, you. No, I'm going to sleep here.
And that same grandma, she was the one. I don't know if I told you about the.
Don't make me cut a switch.
The duende story.
Oh, you mentioned that on the list. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
That's, you know what duendes are?
No.
What do they call them in English? Because Native Americans call them the little people.
Gnomes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they believe in that shit
Gnomes
like
or
a lot.
leprechauns or
Not is it leprechauns? Yeah, I guess you could call that
Natural
leprechaun.
spirits.
Yeah.
There's a wide array.
Yeah. It's very common in like every culture though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. All around the world.
All around the world.
Yeah. So my grandma, I remember her mentioning this one specifically. When she was pregnant, she went to the naval base in Corpus Christi, and she heard all these pots and pans being thrown from the table to the floor, crashing. And she heard like a little like type of voice. She went inside. She opened it. The thing turned. It was kicking the pots and pans off the kitchen table.
Oh, wow.
And it turned to her, made it like a, and it ran. And as soon as it jumped off, it like disappeared midair. And she didn't care, like, because she's had so many experiences. Like for her, it was just a natural thing. Like she just happened to witness another one of these instances, right? So she never really gave it much thought. And then what I started coming, because I love reading like a lot of historical documents, especially from the first explorers in the Americas.
Yeah.
I came across the description from Cabeza de Vaca.
Oh yeah.
So he was shipwrecked off the coast of Florida and made his way trekking by foot from Florida, pretending to be a shaman, all from Florida to the Pacific Ocean down back to Mexico City on foot. And in one of those villages near where my grandma saw this thing, he claimed that this village had been attacked by this little being with a beard, and it would levitate the huts and throw them, and then pick up the people. It would pick up the people, rip out their intestines, their entrails, and just like toss it into the fire.
Oh wow.
And so a lot of people were telling him, like, look, the being came, the little person came, and ripped up my stomach and took out my intestines and stuff like that. So.
And these are stories like that this guy wrote down. And
Yeah, he wrote down when he got back to Mexico. He called it La Mala Cosa, and it was like a justification for him to like push the Catholic religion at that point.
Oh,
Like,
got it.
well, if you pray to
this is all gonna go away.
Yeah.
That's, a family member told me this story that happened in Mexico. I don't know if this is considered duendes. It was definitely not, but it was what the hell is that? Oh, why is it doing that? Okay. Well, it was this story a family member told me back in Mexico, like in the probably this got to be the 40s or 50s. One of their aunts or maybe their mother had cancer. They were like on their last days, and she was really sick, and she was a kid at this point. She opened the door to walk in to say hi to her, and she just remembers seeing 3 little monkeys with horns on top of.
What the heck?
Yeah. And when 3 little monkeys with horns on top of in the bed, like they were on top of her, like doing something to her, and when she walked in, like they just like disappeared.
Wow.
And it was just like one of the most horrifying things that she has ever seen, and it was one of those stories that she would tell, like,
over and over.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've heard of duendes, but I've never heard of them as being like dangerous or like malicious
Right.
or evil. I always
Yeah.
like they're always like mischievous.
There you go.
Because like every time something goes missing, like oh, los duendes.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
they took
yeah,
our
yeah.
sock, or they
Yeah.
took whatever. Like oh, annoying. Los duendes.
There's a story that the some duende tripped some soccer player. That's why they missed the goal. It's like,
Oh my god.
but I've never heard of them being bad.
yeah,
No,
like
no.
gutting people.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
annoying.
That was one of the.
That's some other shit.
That was the earliest account of
Duendes.
duendes that I've heard from the Americas that I've come.
But it's common in Europe though, right?
yeah, oh yeah.
Like, that's
It's common
everywhere.
Yeah. And
Goblins and
You showed me some picture.
land of the
I didn't see the
fairy.
video, but like of shrunken heads. Is that your paranormal? I think that was just the template you used, but
I don't remember.
okay. Are you?
Yeah.
How are like this stuff that you? Well, this is taking it back to what you were talking. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say before we. Did I tell you about the?
it's the ghosts.
No. That's some,
Live, the machines have turned on by themselves mysteriously while we are discussing
never
the
turns
paranormal, the paranormal,
The paranormal.
the
Paranoid.
paranoia of the paranormal. Yes.
what were you were
I
saying?
was just gonna say because I'd interviewed several people like growing up in terms of like their experiences it's in rural parts of Mexico even where they don't know what duendes were like
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
like from an
Yeah, they didn't read.
village.
They didn't read. Yeah.
She like one of the ladies. She came from Mexico to the U.S. and she's like, "Oh, that Santa Claus outfit. That looks exactly like
a duende.
the thing I saw in the on the other side of the river." And she described it as having like little fish teeth. Like,
Yeah.
that was one of them. And then the other one is the most common one is in South America. I don't know if I brought this up last time. The Chuya Chucky.
No.
So the Chuya Chucky, it comes from the word Quechua word means like one uneven foot. So it usually has you could tell it has one human foot and one like
Animal
hoof,
foot or
like a
hoof.
hoof.
Yeah.
And what it does is that it
A grandpa of mine shared a story about that, but go ahead.
Okay, so it lures what it was known for is and lives in the Amazon, and it lures people from the main road. So it like might disguise itself as a sound of a beautiful bird or some type of thing that kind of lures you from the main road. And once you get lured off that road, you get lost. And once you're completely lost, that's when it frightens you. And then at that point, a lot of people get physically ill,
Yeah.
and they
pass
die.
away, they die.
And so they say that the Chuyan Chucky absorbs
Your fear.
their spirit.
Spirit.
Their spirit. It's like
yeah.
it's like a guardian of the forest.
There's something similar to that in the Philippines. It's weird that's
It seems to be a common theme, like where
Yeah.
like the forest has its own like
Its own protective
entity.
entity.
And from this point of view, we see like it was considered like a scary thing, right?
Right,
It's like, oh, you don't go in the forest by yourself, don't get off the main road. It's like this main story. But now it's the entire narrative is changing. So now it's taking a good turn. Now it's protecting the forest from like illegal loggers. A lot of illegal loggers just abandon their equipment and just take off.
There's been a lot of cases of that where like they go and clear cut, and then for some reason they don't want to work.
Yeah. So now it's seen as like the protector of the forest. So from this like,
redemption story.
Yeah, right. So yeah.
That's no. Well, we were talking about something earlier, but
the hoof foot.
no, yes, but I was also. I think I mentioned this, but not when you were here. There was a story an uncle of mine shared because he used to work in the fields in Mexico, like cornfields, and there was this day where they used to all meet up like 3 a.m. every day, and they would bike to like the wherever they were going to be working that day. So they started work in the dark.
Wow.
Because it was so hot, they work early.
Oh, yeah.
And this was it didn't happen to my uncle, but he was there. He was one of the guys there. It was like 4 people meeting up. The first guy got there super early, and he shows up, and he's there in the dark waiting for the other guys to get there. My uncle was one of those other guys that was gonna meet him. Mm-hmm. But he showed up like 30 minutes before they were showing up, and he says he heard small feet walking through the fields.
Wow.
And it was like they looked like kids, but their faces look old, but they kind of resembled kids. He said they were like ugly, and they tried to grab him, and they were so strong they were pulling him. And he was like, what the hell? Like, they were saying, come with us, just come with us, like, you know. And they were like strong. There were a bunch of them, and they were pushing him, biting him at one point.
Wow.
And then my uncle and his crew or whatever, they showed up, and then they just ran away. And he thought, like, was I tripping, you know? But then when they had their flashlights, like, what happened? Like, these fucking kids just try to
Beat me up.
take me or whatever. They looked at his hand, and he had like prints, like someone really like gripping his forearms, like really, and there were small like hand prints all over his, like they were really strong.
Wow.
And my uncle, the only thing my uncle says, that guy's face was like
Like an old
Pale.
man.
like he was not lying. It was, you know. They said their feet were like weird, like their feet, the kids' feet were like crooked or some shit like that. Like they were not normal. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And as far as the hoof foot, I've heard a couple of stories of that from Mexico.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. One of them was an uncle, after he got into a really bad argument with his wife. He had a conversation with a guy when he was walking at night, some stranger. The only thing he noticed at the end was the dude's foot. One of them was hooving, and that's when he freaked out and he left.
I ran away.
Yeah.
That seems to be a common theme throughout Mexico.
Really?
I think it's associated with the
Our love of beef.
no, like the devil is always
yeah.
represented with like a hoof.
Cloven foot.
Cloven foot, yeah.
Both feet. Yeah. I think that's what.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
In Mexico.
I don't know. That's but stories like that even exist in the U.S. where
Yeah.
we have that
Really?
encounter. There's I think it was the Jersey Devil.
Oh, the Jersey Devil. Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that
yeah.
was described as having a hoof foot as well.
It was. It had was it both? Do you guys know about the Jersey Devil?
No.
You wanna-
I can't even remember.
It's a legend that there's what was it? It was kind of like the Moonchild thing, right? He was born, and they were trying to summon some shit. It was an old family from New Jersey, and apparently the kid was so hideous that he had like wings and fucking. And it's supposedly a lot of people have seen it.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of stories
Horns,
about it. Yeah, and he has the hoof feet, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
People would see the tracks in the snow, like
Yeah.
on top of the roofs, and on the just leading into the forest and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
But
What was he called again?
the Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
Jersey.
That's the only one I know of that in this side of the.
I'm pretty sure it's common. It's very common.
Do you know like stories of La Llorona?
Oh, geez.
Because that's a common as what.
My mom's side was from Laredo, Texas. It's right on the
Oh yeah. Border.
what is that river? The Rio Grande.
Rio Grande.
So yeah, there's been a lot of stories of that all throughout the Southwest. Like
Really?
La Llorona is really common.
But it's like all over Mexico, though, right?
Yeah. You could.
Well, not really, because in what is it, Ireland? They call it the banshee.
Well, that's different.
Banshee's different.
That's
The
different.
banshee shows up to scream whenever a member of your family is about to die. It's not the bringer of death; it is the warner of death.
So like with La Llorona, if you trace back its origins, I think it dates back to right before the fall of the Aztec Empire in Tenochtitlan, when
Really?
there
The
was
Llorona?
yeah.
Not just-
That's what I think. I honestly believe that's where it comes back from,
Originates.
because one of the main sources was that they would. I think it was one of the 9 prophecies. I can't remember off the top of my head that they were told that happened to Moctezuma that he would recall. And one of them was a wailing woman saying, "Oh, my children, where will we? What will happen to us?" And everybody in Tenochtitlan claimed to have seen her walking around the city and then vanish into the lake.
Wow, that long ago, huh?
Yeah. So whether or not that ties in, but it's kind of the same thing, you know, like my children, what will happen to us?
I thought a banshee was something different. I thought maybe I'm confusing it with the siren. What are they called?
Sirens are what draws you.
The men,
into-
right?
yeah.
That's what I thought.
Oh,
a banshee
yeah.
was.
Banshee.
They, were-
Banshee
No,
might
banshees
be
are different.
It's a wailing-
I can't remember off the
the
top of my
wailing
head.
Irish.
they all wail, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Scream.
Well, the siren song is supposed to sound completely beautiful and irresistible. The banshee's just like, ah!
Yeah.
That's supposed to represent death.
I know. Jason has cancer. Will you shut up already? Hey, Jason, you gone yet? All right, we got to bury Jason.
Jesus. Now you just get the
You
bill.
woke the baby.
we
Cold-hearted.
do we, yeah, I know, right? What the fuck, man?
Damn banshee.
You I'm looking at the notes. These psychic dreams. What's
Oh,
that?
jeez.
Ooh,
I was just gonna mention.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
in passing.
Yeah, like it was just like a lot of the experiences that I had growing up were really intense.
Yeah.
So a lot of the dreams that were coming true. So like there was a few times where like I dreamt like earthquakes happening. In your dreams, they become exaggerated, right? So
Dreams are a trip, man.
So
recurring dreams, especially.
oh yeah, I used to have like I dreamt about going to the jungle before I even had been to the jungle.
Right.
And even one time I not too long ago, like recently, I had a dream where, because I was looking for the lost city, right? For
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
long.
Which we did an episode about. If you can check it out on the Voice Party backlog.
So I was having vivid dreams, and this one particular dream, I was shown this very specific creek that attaches to a main river, and it showed me to go there. Like this,
Oh,
and
wow.
as soon as I woke up, like I had no idea where any of these rivers were, because it was in another part of the jungle that I hadn't been. It's still part of that same zone, but in the other part. I drew it all out. I drew it all out. Looked in the maps, and sure enough, there it was, that little creek attached to the main river after these two little inlets.
Did you go?
No, I haven't been able to go. And
That's
wow. So what was trippy about it is that I later found out in an obscure book that river, that little section of river, was off limits to all the natives. They believed that it was inhabited by ancient Incan spirits.
Wow.
And so they wouldn't even go hunting there. And so for Inca to have like a presence in the Amazon, it's like, oh, so then that kind of validated my dream.
That's crazy.
So that was one of the things like I really wanted to.
I have a recurring dream. I have it probably once every 6 months or more that I'm in San Francisco, and there's a nuke drop in San Francisco when I'm in San Francisco.
Jesus, don't say that.
I know. I've had it a lot where it really freaks me out because in dreams I'm sometimes like in a building and I see it, and then in other dreams, the most recent one, I was used to work at Chase Center, so when I was working in Chase Center, I had a dream that I was in San Francisco. We just heard a loud boom, and then you just hear, all we felt was like a wave of smoke and then a wave of heat, and then I just couldn't breathe, and then
Wow.
it was like it was so vivid, man.
Like the Terminator 2 scene?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Wow.
And I have this like every 6 months.
That's crazy.
And I'm trying to leave San Francisco, and like I'm feeling the desperation of like, ugh.
Well,
We gotta move.
it could be a warning. A lot of the UFO phenomenon. Back to the UFO. Did you watch the phenomenon
I
yet?
didn't watch it yet, but I did watch that scene where
They interviewed the school children.
yeah, and also that there's UFO sightings over nuclear sites, and then everything nuclear shuts down.
It disables all the nukes.
Weird.
And so when the fall of the Soviet Union happened,
Yeah.
they ran. UFO researchers ran to go interview like these top generals and stuff like that. And sure enough, the same thing happened to them during the Cold War.
Yeah.
And so like they know of our technology, and furthermore, the last point was the school children in Africa, in the middle of Africa, they all saw these entities come out of these crafts, and they all claim to have been given this same message, which is we're going to destroy ourselves by,
Yeah.
yeah.
By voting Republican.
We got to take basically we got to take care of nature, or else
Right.
we're going to destroy ourselves.
Yeah.
And even that one guy who wrote the book Communion, he describes the exact same thing. Where we're destroyed by like a nuclear
You know that
war.
It doesn't take that much nuclear bombs to fucking.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So
there's a very old science fiction movie called The Day the Earth Stood Still
Right.
about this.
There's a remake too with Keanu Reeves. Yeah.
And essentially, the aliens just got together and said, "Look, man, y'all are screwing each other up. We're sending you the giant robot and one ambassador to warn you. Cut it out, or we're taking away your toys."
That scares me. Like, if anything scares me, that fucking like the nuke.
Yeah.
In the Cold War, how many times we came close to getting nuked
completely.
or nuking Russia? Like, just say, "What'd you say?"
yeah,
There was one incident where this guy fucked up, and he thought he heard that say, "Oh, they just bombed us." So like, whenever he heard that code, it means send a nuke to wherever, fucking Florida or New York, like, and he accidentally heard, and he like turned on everything he needed to turn on before the last, and it was all, before the last launch, and it was a mistake.
What stopped him?
Fucking hopefully one of these duendes or something. I don't know, but that was the story.
Maybe
like,
he didn't really want to do it.
He didn't want to do it. Like,
yeah,
oh God,
he's probably like, I'll do everything else so they think I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Or maybe he wanted to make double as sure. Yeah, like
maybe. Like, are you sure?
I think I'd be, if I was in charge of that job, like I'd be like really skeptical. Like,
Hey,
I think in the U.S. you have to like turn 2 keys at once in order to launch the nukes.
that's Stranger Things, bro. They did that on Stranger Things.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
What would you say? Okay, see, like I don't want to add because I'm still in the back of my mind thinking of some of the stuff that you didn't want to mention. Like, I kind of want to know, but we don't want to mention that on it because we're almost done with this episode. Mm-hmm. Anything that resembles something that you won't say in the film that we could watch to get an idea of what that's like?
Wait, say that again.
would you recommend?
Would you recommend a film that really?
Oh my God.
Narrows down.
That's really close to an
really close to that
you've had.
And while you think of that, I was just thinking of
or a book.
Or just thinking of. Are you familiar with the wrestler Vampiro?
Yes.
The what?
Vampiro is a wrestler, famous wrestler. There's this interview, I think I sent you guys a clip where they ask him, because his character's a vampire, what's the best vampire? He says, I actually don't like vampire movies. He goes into how the reason he's into vampire, because he studies vampirism from ancient European shit, and he actually talked about how he's been in voodoo rituals and Thelema. He's a student of Thelema, and he talked about which is Aleister Crowley's religion.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He said that when he got to like the highest level of Thelema, or one of the next stage, someone who he didn't know who they were, out of nowhere, just showed up at a restaurant and gave him that book that takes you to that next level.
Wow.
Didn't say anything to him, and then the instructions were, as soon as you finish this book, destroy it.
Wow.
Yeah. And he said he still hasn't read it because he just doesn't know if he wants to get to the next level.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I had an experience with brujeria where
The band?
yeah. I don't think I've shared this ever. I don't say the name of the person, but there was an incident where my family members were handed an invitation to my funeral with a date.
Wow.
What was the date?
I don't know.
I wouldn't want to.
I wasn't there though, but it was something that it was supposed to happen like in 2013.
That's what I was asking. Like what year?
Yeah.
Like when? It's crazy.
Okay.
It was crazy.
Well, clearly
I didn't go, but that was like one of those things. That's why I kind of have a respect for this shit,
But again, was it with malintent behind it?
For sure.
Okay.
For the thing with my family,
Yeah.
It was.
That's
100%.
That's why.
100%.
I think-
And it was a lot of it fueled by jealousy.
Exactly. So even being a family member, you can't help but think about that. Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Right.
I was gonna ask, how do you protect yourself from like that? Like, cause I'm curious. Somebody hands my family that, like about me, I'm gonna look at that invitation, but then.
I want to know who's gonna show up.
Wow.
But then that opens it up to me, like thinking about that day,
You're
thinking
gonna
about
pull
what can
up.
happen, right? So like,
There's a
how do you?
Huckleberry Finn staged his own
There's rituals for
Okay.
to protect. There's protection rituals for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't do any of that.
She survived.
but it's yeah.
Interesting.
I just kind of laughed it off.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Did you think of a
Did you think of any?
I was just gonna say like the best representation I've seen was like The Sixth Sense. Like
Oh,
as
wow.
stereotypical as
Wow.
that may seem, like cliche. The experiences that he had, like that was on point to a lot of the stuff that happened to me. Even much later in my life, because for me it got worse and worse to the point where I had to cut myself off completely from like all these experiences.
Wow.
Because like I'd be in a room and then I would see shit like that no other person should see, and that was like my breaking point. Because like when you're hitting puberty. You're like already experiencing all this wide array of shit, right? Emotions. But at that point, I had to like, no, that's it. I'm blocking everything.
For a second, I thought you said I had to cut myself. I was like, you went emo.
No.
How'd you block?
Okay.
How'd you block?
Yeah. How did you cut yourself off?
I had to just force myself to not think about it. Like, just
Block it out of your mind.
yeah, block it out.
You ever thought maybe I need to see this for a reason?
No, because I wouldn't have been able to handle it.
Wow.
Like at that point, like, and I know we're going probably over, but at this point, like, I'm gonna give you the breaking point for me. I was in the classroom. There was a kid that was sitting in front of me. I would see, like, it was like a TV, just like flashing through channels, like see the kids, like somebody's flashing through channels. I saw a person in front of me, and I saw like this horrific death, like death. Like I saw people screaming and somebody dead on the floor. And for the next week, that guy was out of the classroom.
Oh wow.
And I was like, wait, what happened? And they're like, the other classmates told me that, oh, his best friend was shot right in front of him, and he was trying to help him as the police came, and he was like out for like a while. And so the images were.
You tapped into his Wi-Fi coming out of his head.
So here's the question: Did I see it before or after? Or after?
Right, yeah.
Or during?
And that's a lot, like, on you to have to figure out.
Because you feel the emotion. You're not just watching a
feel
movie. You're feeling like the emotions he's feeling at that moment.
Right.
And so at that point, like I was like, no, you know what? I can't handle this anymore.
Like you're super sensitive to what that,
Yeah,
and you pick
yeah.
it up and you feel it. Because that's usually what people describe when they like. I had an experience, and I've shared this with you when I went to this the Washoe Club in Virginia City, and I didn't feel scared at all for any of it. It was actually pretty cool being somewhere that was built before fucking Lincoln was president. You know. I walked around. I was in the crib by myself where they used to stack bodies like high, and you know, they said if you ask something, you can hear a question answered back. I didn't do that, but you know, I was there. And once we got to this one room called the Red Room, that's when I really like felt like super like let's say your happiness is controlled by a little like knob, like they just lowered it all the way down, and I just felt super anxious and shaky. And I don't know why, but that room made me super. I felt like sad and like I couldn't describe it. And that's when they told us this is called the Red Room, and there's been like I don't know how many suicides in that room. Wow. And one of the first things that happened there, like in the 1800s, a prostitute got stabbed in the neck so much that her head nearly came off. That was the first thing that happened, and then a bunch of other. It was like a common room for people to just rent it out and commit suicide.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't know what the fuck that was, but while I was there...
So you experienced it for a moment then?
I don't know. But when I was there, I felt that first, and I felt uncomfortable. I was like, I kind of want to say, let's go to my brother, but I didn't, just because I was like, I don't want to be a bitch, you know? Like, I just stayed in there. I was like, I couldn't breathe. I felt like a tightness in my chest, and there was these girls in there with the
talking,
the EVP, not the EVP thing, but the one that detects like the change in the what's it called? Yeah, and it was going off. It was going off in there. I didn't notice that till like the end when they were like, "Wow, it's really going off in here." I was like, "Yeah,
no."
But I felt it way before that shit, you know, whatever the fuck that was.
So for that moment, you got that glimpse. You felt that.
Probably. Yeah. I felt that in other places too, where I've been to, where I didn't know certain stuff had happened in certain places. I've been to, you know, jobs, and sorry, that's the next case. I've been to houses where I didn't feel. I don't know what it was. I felt really anxious, like didn't even have a panic attack.
There you go.
One of them I found out shortly after that the guy was so old, something happened. He died in the garage. And there was something about the garage that made me uncomfortable.
You're just sensitive. You're tapping into that environment.
Damn.
This has been a great show, man. Thanks again for coming by, bro. Plug where we can find you. Where, like, I mean, this stuff.
Give us your TikTok.
Exploring.
And also plug your book again.
ExploringTraditions.com is my website. My TikTok, I think, is Exploring Traditions as well.
Yeah.
My book is The Ancients: Investigations into the Lost Civilizations of Lemuria and Atlantis.
Ooh.
Which you can listen to the episode about that on another episode that we have. We did the first one. We didn't talk about this stuff here, but yeah. I want to follow up on your explorations. I don't know if you said you're gonna go again.
I wanted to, but I don't think I am. It's up in the air.
All right. Well, you got anything else for the guests, you guys?
Thank you for a very supernatural episode of The Voice Party.
I had fun. Got a lot of chills. Thanks.
That's been The Voice Party.
And we're out.
Oh, man.